An article in RIA Novosti, a government propagandist news agency of which RT is a subsidiary, openly calls for genocide, while sanctioned Russian lawmakers that are fully aligned with this genocidal policy are welcomed in Switzerland at a so-called peace conference. Today we confront two outrageous acts: a Russian state propaganda op-ed calling for the total annihilation of Ukrainians, published by RIA Novosti, and the astonishing decision by Switzerland to allow sanctioned Russian lawmakers, including war crime enablers, to speak at a Geneva peace conference. These two acts expose two grotesque lies: that the Russian invasion of Ukraine has anything to do with NATO security concerns or any similar nonsense, and has also exploded the Swiss claims to be neutral politically but not morally. Rather, its reminder, if such were needed, of the extraordinary moral bankruptcy Switzerland has shown today, and reflects other episodes in the past where it was an enabler of Nazi crimes to steal wealth from Jews during the Holocaust, and allegedly supplied the fascist war machine with precision machine parts, until gently persuaded by the RAF to tone down their hypocrisy. Switzerland was not neutral then, and is not now. It could even be deeply dependent on Russian money and largess, which may go some way to explain its current behaviour. We'll place these in the context of past genocidal rhetoric, unpack the moral and political outrage, and examine how Switzerland's alleged neutrality is being tested. Let's dive in. No one should remain alive in Ukraine. On the 30th to the 31st of July 2025, RIA Novosti ran an op-ed by Kirill Strelnikov titled "There is no other option. No one should remain alive in Ukraine. The time for coming to one's senses has passed," he writes, "and we will no longer make appeals or try to convince anyone. If people are consciously and willingly prepared to die for their masters, that is their choice." This was re-reported in Meduza on 31st July 2025. The piece dehumanizes Ukrainians as laboratory rats and argues Western military praise is a lie intended to keep them fighting. Well, this isn't fringe stuff. It's state propaganda via RIA Novosti, an outlet controlled by Vladimir Putin's government. It reflects genocidal intent, not just war rhetoric. The historical context of genocidal propaganda: Russian propaganda has repeatedly denied Ukraine's independent existence. The 2022 op-ed "What Russia Should Do with Ukraine" by Timofey Sergeytsev, also from RIA, called for the destruction of Ukraine's national identity and state, evoking denazification language. It stated that Ukraine should be erased culturally and forcibly re-educated. That is also reported in Meduza. Further, voices like Anton Krosovski, a leading RT presenter, outrightly said that Ukrainian children who hate Russia should be drowned and burnt. He said this on television in October 2022. Such language isn't metaphorical, it's classical eliminationist ideology. The latest op-ed is the newest iteration of a long-standing campaign. Moral outrage over genocide calls. Let's not mince our words. When a government outlet says no one should remain alive in a country, it is calling for genocide. The moral depravity is staggering, but no longer surprising. Only our inaction in the face of clear genocidal intent is what is surprising now, and the willingness of hypocritical and morally debased countries like Switzerland to welcome these killers with open arms, roll out the red carpet for them, little thinking that a carpet of blood is more appropriate. International observers have condemned the RIA column. Ukrainian leaders responded with visceral outrage, while human rights analysts affirm such language constitutes textbook genocidal incitement. This is not a debate. This is dehumanization, and when state media instructs mass murder, the world must respond, not run diplomatic errands or normalize the mafia regime of murderers that issued those statements. So the Geneva shock: sanctioned war enablers are at the peace talks. In parallel to genocidal rhetoric, Switzerland permitted sanctioned Russian officials to speak at the World Conference of Speakers of Parliament in Geneva, among them Valentina Matvienko, chair of Russia's Federal Council and key enabler of the 2022 invasion. This is reported by Meduza and a opposition Russian outlet, Nova Gazeta Europe. Matvienko belongs in the defendant's chair, not at international conferences. Her presence in Geneva is a disgrace, and it should never have happened. That is according to Ukrainian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Georgy Tichy, as reported by NV on 30th of July 2025. Ukrainian and German lawmakers walked out en masse during her address. Deputy Speaker Olena Kondratyuk said, "We staged a walkout during Matvienko's speech. This was a walkout against the aggressor, a powerful show of support for the Ukrainian people." Despite EU sanctions, Swiss law allowed her attendance via diplomatic immunity loopholes. Meanwhile, Italy and France waived flight bans to allow it to happen. In fact, they should have instituted arrest warrants for the attendees and all similar representatives of the fascistic Moscow regime. The idea of inviting these killer clowns to a conference on peace and democracy is beyond grotesque. They are members of a rubber-stamp parliament denuded of all organic opposition, whose sole purpose is to approve legislation proposed by tyrant Vladimir Putin and for the aggrandizement of his power. Every seat they occupy in the Russian Duma deprives a real democrat and lawmaker of a voice. To treat them as anything but a sick joke is abhorrent, and to normalize their voices on the world stage is tantamount to a crime against democracy, a mockery of the concept of real parliamentary democracy. Well, let's break down why this outrage should be expressed so loudly and vociferously. Well, it constitutes the delegitimization of the sanctions regime. Allowing sanctioned actors sends a signal that sanctions can be bypassed. It's also platforming genocidal apologists. Inviting war enablers into a peace summit undermines the forum's integrity. It undermines the very concept of peace. Political optics, joint photos or handshakes equate to tacit legitimization, what Ukraine supporters call supporting the aggressor. And also neutrality is tested. Switzerland's host role really collides directly with moral responsibility that it should be shouldering. Well, let's conclude this episode. Reconciling neutrality and accountability. Switzerland cherishes its supposed neutrality, but neutrality cannot cleanly coexist with moral blindness. Hosting individuals that are championing war crimes and genocide undermines Switzerland's claim to principled impartiality. Neutrality must not mean neutrality of ethics, especially where genocide is incited and war criminals are given platforms in venues dedicated to peace. If Russian propagandists can call for mass death, ethnic cleansing and genocide, then all Russian officials must be persona non grata, and especially at international podiums. Neutrality in this case is clearly taking a side with the aggressor and demeaning the victim. The world must choose between complacency and accountability. Switzerland must choose what image it wants to project to the world. It denies itself the indulgence of sending ammo to the victim Ukraine for its own defense, but welcomes the aggressor with open arms. It is an absolute obscenity.